Yeah, it's Clemson, South Carolina week, so we're excited about it. Anxious to go play. Hopefully the weather agrees with us, and we can see a lot of great baseball this weekend. So happy to answer questions.
Mark, got a couple for you. One, pitching rotation will stay the same.
Correct.
And two, even before you got here, what's your first memory of the USC Clemson rivalry? Whether you saw it on TV or heard about it or something?
It's hard for me to say what was the very first time I remember seeing it. When you're a fan of college baseball, like I've been in college baseball since the late 90s, so it's been a while. You always kind of see the highlights. Now, obviously, it's become so much bigger nationally because of social media. In my first years in coaching, we didn't have all that stuff yet, so it's hard to get video of a lot of things outside of your region. But I know the very first game that I was here, obviously it was very clear how big this was. So my biggest memories is being part of it for the first time.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you doing, Rick?
Right, yeah, good to see you. Your first time going through the Carolina Clemson rivalry, 3 games, 3 days, 3 different venues. What was your impression then, and now that you've gone through it for a few years, what do you think about it now? What makes it really so unique to college baseball?
Yeah, I think I love it like most people in the state love it, and I think a lot of people nationally love it. You're going to see 2 highly rated teams with storied traditions. You're going to see some of the best players in the country compete in 3 venues in 3 cities. I guess 2 cities when you factor in where when the neutral game is here. But it's just everything you want. It's high competition. It's big fan bases. It's a rivalry. It's everything you're looking for. So I think when it was designed years ago, they got it right.
There's been a lot of turnover in Clemson's roster from last year to this year. Not a whole lot of familiar names. What does that mean to this game in terms of scouting them? You see a different team out there from those guys, and is it better for you guys to put together a whole new scouting report versus having some prior knowledge?
Yeah, obviously they have some returning players that are very good as well. It's not a completely new team, but there's some returning players that are really, really good. You've got to look at video, and so the video we've been able to find of their game so far, we've done the best we could in trying to make sure we're prepared. Our assistants are working very hard, preparing, looking at scouting reports, everything you need to do to be prepared. But when there's turnover in a roster, regardless of who you're playing, it just means you have to invest more time on the front end.
You mentioned the weather. I know obviously you could still play tomorrow night, but if the game tomorrow night can't happen, what's kind of your philosophy on pitching? Would you move Eli to Saturday? Would you just skip him for the week? How do you kind of go about that if the weather stays what it looks like for tomorrow?
I'll give you a capital TBD. That's the best I can tell you. We'll look at everything, matchups, what makes the most sense. That's if we get to that point, we'll put our heads together and try to figure out what makes the most sense.
Coach Will Taylor, one of those players you kind of referred to as one of the constants at that Clemson program. He's a local product, though, out of the Midlands. Talk about him and kind of what you've seen from his game.
Yeah, he's a good player. Obviously, he gave up football, and I think when he gave up football, that helped his baseball game. So he's had a nice career there. I think he's continuing to improve. So he's a guy that we have to be concerned with going into the weekend.
Wanted to just ask you about the offense for a second. You guys have hit, only 11 homers on the year and taken a lot more walks. Obviously, with what you guys are doing offensively, how happy does it make you that you guys are, scoring runs in other different ways besides the long ball?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's about run scoring and run prevention. So when I look at our pitching and defense and how are we preventing runs, I'm happy with where that is based on the numbers. And I'm happy with the fact that we're scoring over 10 runs a game. And the home run hasn't been a huge part of our offense yet. As much as since I've been here, the wind has played a factor in taking away homers much more than it has in terms of helping us hit homers. And that will change as the weather warms up. But I just think it's one of those things as the weather starts to turn a little bit and we do get either neutral or favorable conditions for our hitters, you'll see the home runs be exactly where we all know they will be. But it's good to see that we're scoring 10 runs a game without the benefit of a lot of homers.
In the preseason, you were talking about how much you liked the pitching that you saw, and so far going into the Clemson week under a 2.5 ERA. Has anything surprised you about the pitching staff, or is this exactly what you expected after seeing him through the fall?
Well, we knew we had a lot of talented arms, and you see that, in the most simple fact of the velocities you're seeing on the scoreboard with every guy that goes out there. You're looking at 93 to 95 most of the time. So we knew that from that raw talent standpoint, and it's a very simple metric to look at, but it's a starting point. We knew we had that talent. I think what Matt Williams has done a great job with is just really helping these guys harness what they can do in attacking the strike zone. And our strikeout to walk ratio is in a pretty good spot right now. So I'm just very pleased that what we thought we would be getting out of these guys, we are getting, and with a lot of them, we're getting even more so. And I credit the work that our pitchers are putting in, and I credit Matt with the impact he's had.
And just to be clear, with regard to the weather, I would anticipate y'all doing everything you can to play tomorrow night versus having to postpone to a later date.
Correct.
And just to follow up, there would not be a doubleheader at all this weekend.
Probably not. I think everybody's preference is to play one game at a time in each of the venues, if at all possible.
Will Tippett right now, a little bit of a slower start, but I think he had a couple of hits Tuesday in the midweek. What are you seeing from his swing right now, and how confident are you that he's going to be able to kind of get it back?
I think Will be fine. He had a really good fall for us against our pitchers, and we've seen that we have pretty good pitching staff, and he did really well this fall. He got into a little funk this spring, and he just hasn't quite gotten out of it. I think he's going to be a good hitter for us. I really do, both right-handed and left-handed. Just hasn't quite found it yet, but he's shown some signs lately that he's starting to figure some things out. And so because of his defense, obviously his defense has been tremendous. And so him hitting in the 9-hole, if he can get his offense, where we all think it can be for him, then it just makes our lineup that much better.
You seem to talk about walks so much.
Seem to, or I do?
You do. You don't seem to. You do talk about walks a lot. When a game finishes and you look at the stats, is that where your eyes go first? Is walks, both pitching and hitting?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've never been asked that question. Obviously, giving the game away is a big part of college baseball. You have to. Football coaches have talked all the time that before you can win a game, you have to avoid the things that lose games. And generally, walks and errors are what causes your team to lose once, as a starting point. So I would generally say, I look at when I get a box score after the game from Kent, I look at the pitcher's line score to see how did we do from a standpoint of earned runs, of walks, of strikeouts, and how many guys pitched and, who was the best on that day. And then I'll look at our line score, our box score, and I'll look at that strikeout to walk column. Because generally when an offense get walks, it helps them. I mean, it's pretty simple to say, but hits are getting harder and harder to come by in college baseball because of the pitching development, the velocity era. So when you can do other things to get on base, it gives you an edge. So the walks, the errors, they're a big part of what you look at in a post game look at the box score. All right. Enjoy.